Hi all, myself Anjita Aravind. Today we are going to discuss about human digestive system. Here's a small introduction about the digestive systems. We all know that the digestive system is a complex series of organs and the accessory glands. In order to use the food we eat, our body has to break down the food into smaller molecules and also excrete the waste materials after the digestion process. Here we can see the entire gastrointestinal tract, and the digestive system forms a long continuous tube open at the both ends, and it is known as alimentary tract or gastrointestinal tract, and it is starting from the mouth then to the pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum and anus. Also to this tube attached some accessory glands, and these accessory glands helps to the digestion process. The accessory glands include salivary glands, teeth, liver, gallbladder, pancreas and mesenteries. The gastrointestinal tract is located mainly in the abdominopelvic cavities, and it is surrounded by a serous membranes, and this membrane is known as visceral peritoneum. And this serous membrane is continuous with the parietal peritoneum and extends between the digestive organs and mesenteries. And this peritoneum hold the organs in place and prevent the tangling. Now we can discuss about the digestion process. We all know the digestion process is a chemical breakdown of the complex biological molecules into their component parts, that is converting the lipid into fatty acids, proteins to individual amino acids and carbohydrate into simple sugars. And the digestion is mainly of two types: mechanical digestion and chemical digestion. So digestion, these are of two types, mechanical and chemical digestions. And in mechanical digestions, it changes the physical form of the food by chewing, tear, grinding, mash and mixing process. And in chemical digestions, it changes the chemical composition of the food with the aid of the digestive enzymes. So the carbohydrate, protein and lipids are converted into smaller molecules with the help of the digestive enzyme. And the digestive enzymes are special proteins that helps to break up larger molecules of food into very smaller molecules that can be absorbed and used by the cells in the form of nutrients. And mainly there is 5 phases for the digestion process. First one is ingestion, movement, digestion, absorption and further digestion process. We already said that the gastrointestinal tract contains a digestive tract and an accessory part, and the digestive tract is a long muscular tube with many sections and areas, and it begins in the mouth and ends in the anus. And the part of the digestive tract include mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum and anus. And the accessory parts are the organs that are not in the digestive tract but help in the digestion. And the accessory parts include teeth, tongue, salivary glands, liver, gallbladder and pancreas. Now we start with the digestive tract. The first part, mouth. And in mouth, the structures that helps to the digestion process include teeth, salivary glands and tongue. And the teeth which will cut, tear, crush and grind the food materials that we will eat. And the salivary glands which will produce and secrete the saliva into the oral cavities. And mainly we have 3 salivary glands, that is parotid, submaxillary and sublingual. The parotid gland is situated beneath the chins and submaxillary below the jaw bones, and sublinguals it is situated below the tongue. And saliva moisten the food and contains enzymes, that is tithialin or salivary amylase, that begins digestion of starch into smaller polysaccharides within the mouth. And the third one is the tongue, which mixes and rolls the food into a bolus forms and pushes the bolus towards the pharynx and into the esophagus when swallowing. Here we can see the entire anatomy of the mouth and throat. And on the second picture we can see the inside view of our mouth. And here we can see the superior and inferior lip portions, and the lip portion is attached to our gum region by superior labial frenulum and inferior labial frenulum. And the superior region, after the gum region, there is the teeth are attached, and inside the teeth there is the hard palate and then the soft palate. And the soft palate is formed into a vulva region, and both side of the vulva there is the palatine tonsils. We already studied the functions of the tonsils. And the lower portion of the mouth, which will contain the tongue region, and the tongue is attached to the base with the lingual frenulum. And on the right side we can see the cross section of the mouth and the swallowing process from the mouth to the throat region. Here we can see the structure of teeth, and we all know that the teeth, which is a structure which helps to the digestion process. Mainly we have two sets of teeth, that is deciduous baby teeth, otherwise known as milk teeth, and permanent teeth. And the deciduous or milk teeth, they are 20 in numbers and begins at 6 months after our birth, and they shuts on 6 to 13 years. And the permanent teeth, they are 32 in numbers, and the teeth have mainly a crown region and a root region, and the crown region which is above the gum and the root region which is below the gum region. And there is a neck region in between the crown and the root region. There is a joining is known as the neck regions, and this tooth is embedded in the gum region and it is embedded in a socket, and this socket is known as the alveolus. And each kind of the tooth, there is the permanent teeth is of 4 types: incisors, canine, premolars and molars, and each have specific functions. And incisors, which is used for cutting purposes, and canines for the holding purposes, and premolars for cutting and crushing, and molars mainly function as chewing, grinding and crushing. And the tooth is the tooth which is made up of several layers. We all know that the enamel, which is the very hardest outer surface of a tooth, and the dentine, which is the below the enamel there is the dentine, and it is a living connective tissue with cells that line the pulp cavity, and inside the dentine there is a pulp cavity. It is the living portion of the tooth, and it contains several blood vessels and nerves. And cementum on the root of the tooth only, the cementum which is present only the root of the tooth, and it is the outer surface of the tooth, and it is a living connective tissue with the cells in the lacunae, and it holds the root into the sockets in the jaws. So next we have to discuss the mechanism of swallowing. So after chewing the food with the help of the saliva, teeth and tongue in the mouth, we have to swallow the bolus form of the food into our stomach. So swallowing is a coordinated activity of the tongue, soft palate, pharynx and esophagus. It mainly includes 3 phases: buccal phase, pharyngeal phase and esophageal phase. The food is pushed into the pharynx by the tongue. It is a voluntary process, and the tongue blocks the mouth, and the soft palate closes off the noses, and the pharynx, also known as the Adam's apple, rises so the epiglottis can close the opening of the trachea to prevent the entry of food into the trachea. Here we can see the 3 phases of the swallowing. First, buccal phases, pharyngeal phases and the esophageal phases. We already said that the buccal phases, which is a voluntary process, and the pharyngeal and esophageal phases are involuntary process. So after the buccal phases, the food reaches the pharynx. So from the pharynx to the stomach region, the food moves through the peristaltic movement, and at the end of the esophageal stage, the food reaches the stomach. So next region is the esophagus. Esophagus is a straight muscular tube that is about 25 cm long, and it connects the mouth with the stomach region, and it takes about 4 to 8 seconds to reach the food from the mouth to the stomach region. And the walls of the esophagus which contain a smooth muscles, and these smooth muscles contract in a wavy motions which will create a peristaltic movement, and this peristalsis propels the food and liquid slowly down to the esophagus into the stomach. And cardiac sphincter, it is a ring like valve which relaxes to allow the food into the stomach. And in the picture we can see the waves of relaxation and waves of contraction which is made by the smooth muscle which is present in the walls of the esophagus, and these contractions and relaxations make the bolus form of the food to move from the esophagus to the stomach region. So when the cardiac sphincter relaxes, the food enters from the esophagus into the stomach region. We all know that the stomach is a J-shaped muscular sac, and it inner side of the stomach which contain folds, and that increases the surface area of the stomach. And when the food reaches the stomach, the food material again crushed into smaller pieces, and the food is mixed with the gastric juices, that is the hydrochloric acid and also the enzyme which is secreted from the stomach walls, and the HCl which helps to break down the food and kills the bacteria that came along with that food material. And in the picture we can see the cross section of the stomach region, and the stomach region mainly contains three parts: a fundus part, a body part and a pylorus part. And the whole gastrointestinal tract is made up of mainly 4 layers. These layers from the outer to the inner region, the outermost layer is a serosa, and then muscularis, then submucosa, and the innermost layer is the mucosa. So here we can see the cross section of the stomach wall, and we already said that it is made up of mainly 4 layers, that is the outermost serosa, muscularis, submucosa and mucosa, and the serosa layer which consists of visceral peritoneum, and mainly fibrous and areolar connective tissues are present on the serosa layer, and then the muscularis layer which consists of several layers of smooth muscles. Here we can see the longitudinal, circular, oblique type of several smooth muscles are present on the muscularis layer. And on the submucosal layer we can see the blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, nerves and connective tissues. These all are present on the submucosal layer. And the innermost layer is the mucosa. Mucosa contain mucous membrane linings, and these innermost layer which is made up of many foldings, and these foldings is known as the gastric pins, and these foldings is made up of many type of cells, and the main 5 cells which is made up of this gastric pit is known as the surface mucous cells, mucous neck cells, parietal cells, chief cells and G cells. And these all cells are secreting several type of hormones, enzymes, gastric acids, etc. Here we can see the surface mucous cells and the mucous neck cells both are secreting the mucus, and the parietal cells which will secrete the hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factor, and the chief cells which will secrete the pepsinogen and gastric lipase enzyme, and the G cells which will secrete the hormone gastrins. And here we can see the movement of stomach. After reaching the food in the stomach, it is mixed with the gastric acid and also the enzymes which is secreted from the stomach wall, and the movements of the stomach, that the first and second wave which is mixes the food with the gastric juice and the enzymes, and we can see the mixing of the food with the stomach, that is the movement of the stomach in this picture. After the mixing and digestion process in the stomach, the food will move from the stomach into the small intestine region. Small intestine is a long coiled tube and beneath the stomach region, and it has mainly 3 parts. You all know the duodenum part, jejunum and ileum. Duodenum is the upper part. It connects to the stomach region, and to the duodenum region there is a connection from the pancreas and liver, and where the digestive juice from the pancreas and liver combine with the chyme and making the chyme into a thin and watery. And the jejunum, it is about 8 feet long, and the ileum, it is about 12 feet long. And in the picture we can see the duodenum, jejunum and ileum portions. and the small intestine is the site of the greatest amount of the digestion and absorption. And the inside view of the small intestine is given on the picture, and here we can see that there is many foldings are present inside the small intestine also for the easy movement of the food materials in the small intestine. On the last side we see the inner cross section of the small intestine, and the small intestine has folded inner walls and it's covered with finger like projections, and these projections are known as the villi or villus, and each villus has a tinier projections called microvilli, and this microvilli helps to the absorption of the digested food. And the villi and microvilli, these both are increasing the surface area of the small intestine for the greater absorption, and the peristaltis moves the undigested food into the large intestines. Here we can see the movement of the food in the small intestine from the starting duodenum to the ileum region, and it is move the food into the large intestine. In the picture we can see the large intestine. The picture itself says that the large intestine, it is larger in diameter but shorter in length, and the water is absorbed from the undigested food and making the waste harder until it becomes a solid form, and the waste stays for 10 to 12 hours in the large intestine, and the waste is pushed into the expanded portion of the rectum of the large intestine, and the solid waste stays in the rectum until it is excreted through the anus as fecus. And appendix hangs on the right side of the large intestine. We can see it on the picture. On the last slide we said that the rectum can hold the waste material, and in the picture we can see the elaborated structure of the rectum and the anus outer side contain the anal sphincters, and when the rectum is holding the waste material, the stretching of the rectum will stimulate the defecation process, and the defecation process will happen in two methods. That defecation reflexes are of two types: intrinsic defecation reflex and parasympathetic defecation reflex are there. And intrinsic defecation reflex via the meandric plexus and it will causes the muscularis to contract and internal sphincter to relax, and relatively weak contractions will occur, and the defecation occurs only if the external anal sphincter is voluntarily relaxes. And next reflex mechanism is the parasympathetic defecation reflex. It involves spinal cord, and stretching of the rectum send the sensory signals to the spinal cord, and splenic nerves return the signals and intensifying the peristaltic movement, and the fecus will fall away. This is the defecation process to elimination of the waste material from our body. So from here we will stop the digestive tract, and next video we will study the accessory organs of the digestive system. Thank you for hearing me.